All right, here we are. Brand new episode, short story long, with the podcast God. There's been a lot of people have asked me to interview you in
Yes.
my comments and in the feedback on iTunes. Adam22 from No Jumper and from a million other things that we're going to get into. Thanks for making this happen, man.
Very nice to be here. I'm very happy to be in the zone, man.
Yeah, you got a good, I will say, like, there's not many people, because I do a lot, like, I ask everyone to tell me who they want me to interview.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many people that get repeated requests,
Really?
and you're one of them. Like, you
Yeah.
get a lot, like
That's
probably
that.
top two or three. So I just feel like your audience really likes you and really like
The weird part
they
about that is that
connect,
I don't really
man.
like them.
I
No, they suck. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe
They're
that's
cool.
why they like you so much. It's one of
Yeah.
those like when you don't like a girl and she just is in love with you.
Yeah. Like I've like a lot of YouTubers like run into problems and stuff because they'll get big and then they'll try to say something critical about their fan base. And since day one, I've always been like, yo, like I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, fuck you.
Yeah.
Shut up. Just ignore the ones you don't like. This
Yeah.
is about me. I always say this is about me. It's not about you.
That's so good.
Because I got shit I got to get off my chest. And so when I do an interview, it's typically just because it's someone I want to talk to. So
Yeah.
that takes me a long way. It's like, you know, if you're it's like the difference between a publicly owned company or a privately owned company. Like you can kind of predict how privately owned businesses are going to move
Yeah.
because they have to make a profit, blah, blah, blah. And like privately owned business, you could actually maybe count on them having some sort of integrity.
Yeah. And not only that, but you're almost like a privately owned business that's like already rich. Like if you're owned already by a rich guy, where like you don't give a fuck necessarily, it sounds like about the business moves, right? Like you're
Yeah.
just doing what you want to do, what you believe in. Like there's no it sounds like you're not at the will of the fan base or the next check or like you're doing what you want to do.
That's my favorite part is being able to tell people to fuck off, to be able to ignore people, to be able to have, you know, like I had a huge label and they had this fucking corny ass rapper and they were trying to offer me a bunch of money
Yeah.
to like take him on tour. And I was like, no way.
So good.
And they're just like, why? He's like, not that different from a lot of the guys you fuck with. And I'm like, yeah, but the difference is the part that you can't tell and that I can tell.
Yeah.
So fuck
And that's
you.
why they keep beating down your door to sign the next one.
It's like, yeah, I like the hot girl effect. You know,
Yeah.
like when a hot girl walks in the club and you're a dude and you're just standing there, even if you're rich, even if you're famous, you're still kind of looking at them like, damn, it's tough, it's
You can't-
unattainable. How do I get to her? What do I do? And
Yeah.
it's like, you want to cultivate that aura around yourself with anything. I think. I don't
It's
know.
good. And I think that if you're able to like succeed with that approach, it's a real good spot to be in.
Right.
Right. Because some people have tried to be an asshole or
Mm.
tried to be a jerk and it just doesn't work. And then you're screwed and you're just
Right.
alone and nobody likes you. But if you're able to, people actually like you, you're actually offering something of value. And part of it is, and also I don't give a fuck what you say.
Right.
It's because do people ever run up on you like at like getting coffee or anything like that, and you're just like, "Hey, fuck off for now," and they're like, "Oh my god, Adam's such a dick. I love him."
Well, I'm super nice to my fans, like to the extent where, like, okay, you see me in public, you want to take a picture, cool, we can take a picture, we can stand there, we can have a conversation, whatever. But then, like at the same time, if somebody comes up to me on a level that I'm not comfortable with, which is like, I just don't like when people are trying to take pictures and shake hands when I'm eating. You know, if I'm
Yeah.
eating, the worst is when I'm with my girl. I'm like, we're out to get food and stuff at the mall or some shit, and like, you got to be like, nah, like I'm not shaking your hand. I'm eating, bro. Like that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, but the thing is like when I say like, nah, I'm eating, it's like they don't say like, oh, Adam's a dickhead. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like
Yeah.
I feel like there's a weird thing about me where I seem kind of intimidating. So if I act like a dick to my fans, it's like they almost kind of expect it. But then if I'm nice, I get tons of credit for it.
Yeah. That's true.
Whereas like if you're, you know, I don't even know who's a nice celebrity or a nice, you know,
Zac Efron.
right. If you're him, people expect you to be nice. So if you're like,
If Zac Efron's a dick,
right.
it's like, whoa.
But you know what sometimes amazes me is like I was hearing about Andre 3000 because he's like super famous, but rides his bike around in downtown New York.
Yeah.
And people were telling me like he'll be riding down the street and somebody will scream like Andre, and he'll turn around and go back and talk to him, to just a random fan. I'm like, oh my god, like
That
that's
sounds
the
like my
last
worst
thing.
nightmare.
I'm walking down the street. I'm like, what's up, bro? Like when they're like, hey, no, I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing, man? Like, you know, I don't really want to stop unless I feel like if I'm in movement, it's hard to get me to stop. Is my opinion.
Yeah.
If I'm in movement, I don't really have to stop. But if I'm stopped, then you can keep me stopped.
And the thing about me, like, I don't know about you, but I'm naturally just not a very social guy, right? Like, I never was. Like, I wasn't the guy in high school that was everyone's friend or that was walking around the hallways talking to everyone, right? So, like, when I started getting recognized and stuff like that, like, I try everything I can not to come off like a dick,
Mm.
but like sometimes I don't feel comfortable sitting and talking to a random stranger about
You know
something.
what's kind of the weird thing about it though is that, in a way, when people got to get to know you from TV and stuff,
Yeah.
is that still like when you're on TV, you're playing the very, very social, personable version of yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even though you were playing yourself, you're still like representing a certain part of yourself. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, I feel like my fans, a lot of times, they get to see so many different sides of me
Yeah.
through that it's like I don't know. I feel like I might seem more human to them than the average person as a TV role because they
Yeah.
get to see a more squeaky clean version of you.
Yeah,
in a
you're
way,
right.
You know.
Plus, I was like my main TV years, I was like the little homie. So like people felt like they could literally be like, "Drama, what's up? What's up, dude? That one thing you did with the pool and that was fucked up, bro." And I'm like, "Man, what? I'm trying to like go
Leave
get
me
lunch. Like, what
alone,
do you?
yeah.
I don't. You can't punk me. Like, like they almost
Yeah.
try to like big homie me
Yeah.
because like that was like my role.
And you forget
know?
how involved people get with TV shows, and then but we forget too that we're in Hollywood and we know that like every TV show you watch is like, is this real? Is it not real? It's always
Yeah.
some combination. Fantasy Factory is like, I'm sure there was elements of reality in. I'm sure there was plenty of
Yeah, it was like 50-50.
Right.
Like it was compared to like doing YouTube videos or doing stuff that's
Right.
real. Like
But
that's
now people fake shit in the
Nah,
vlogs
you're
and try to
right.
make it look real.
You're
Shout out Jake
right.
Paul.
Yeah, you're fucking right.
Yeah, it's a crazy world these days.
Damn it, you're right.
I kind of am jealous of them for like thinking of that because sometimes I think about that. Maybe I should just make a vlog where I just fake something crazy and do a good job pretending.
And it works so well too. That's why I can't like it. Their fan base is insane.
It's still entertainment at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time like figuring out how to do that. I've been trying to like figure out vlogs, and like I just have a hard time. Like you do a good job because you're just 100% authentic. It seems like.
It took me a while to get there, though.
Yeah.
It took me a while to learn how to speak on camera and stuff.
Have you ever cared, like when you first started doing it and pointing a camera at yourself and just saying what was on your mind, were you worried about it at all, or you were just like, fuck it from the beginning? Like, I'm going to put this out. If you like it, great.
It was like I was not even worried so much as I just didn't even know what the fuck to say. I didn't know what to talk about because my early influences in terms of vlogging, I was watching like makeup girls on YouTube and stuff
Yeah.
because in like 2011, there weren't that many vloggers. I was watching like Jenna Marbles and being like, yo, I need to do a version of this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard for me to picture myself doing it because she's a girl. She's kind of goofy and fun. She's really funny. I'm like more, I'm myself, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And then what was cool with the podcast is that I was just sort of doing podcasts, doing vlogs. You're just beating the insecurities out of yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like because once you're used to sitting here talking on camera for an hour or 2 hours, then why the fuck can't you sit here by yourself and talking to the camera and do a vlog or go out by yourself and point the camera at
That's
yourself,
true.
And it's just, I feel like all that has just sort of been the gradual progression of like making myself comfortable with sitting there talking on camera.
Yeah. That's true, man. When I first started doing this, like I had the concept for doing a podcast and I knew it'd be a good idea or could be a good idea. But when I sat down for those first probably 5 to 10 interviews, I was like, fuck. Like I was literally like having an anxiety attack.
Yes.
Because I'm like, man, I got to
Wow.
talk for an hour. I got to try to tell a story. I got to like, I don't know how to do this because
Yeah.
I've never like had to drive a conversation for that long. You know what I mean? And in my head, it sounded great. But when I got down to it, I was like, oh my God.
Which is the really weird part because literally if we were trapped in this room for a couple of years, we would just talk. Like that's all anybody would ever do.
Yeah.
It's like, you
Yeah.
just talk and talk and talk. And it's like, it's the easiest thing in the world, but then you also build it up in your head and put pressure on yourself because so many people are going to be listening.
Yeah.
I don't know. In the early days when I think about it, like I was getting nervous before interviewing like my friend, like some guy that I like know
Yeah,
pretty
me
well.
too.
And I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, why the fuck was I nervous about that? But then a couple weeks ago, I interviewed Wyclef.
Yeah.
And I was definitely nervous before that.
Yeah,
because I'm
100%.
like, because you could fuck that up. You could really like, he just deserves so much respect
Yep.
that it's like, and it's just, you can't help but like have that feeling of inferiority. Like, how the fuck am I even on the level to talk to Wyclef right now?
Yeah.
But then after you do it, it's like you've sort of beaten some more of that insecurities out of yourself. So I feel like now, I did Master P interview. I did fucking Wyclef in the past couple months. So maybe if tomorrow I got, a Gucci Mane interview or a Jay-Z interview or whatever, like would be my ideal interview,
Yeah.
then it probably wouldn't seem as bad because I had a bunch of, it's like being a boxer. I always think of it as like, if you're a boxer and you go in for your first fight, and you're scared shitless, the lights are blasting in your face, you're terrified, you're probably not going to do as well as you could do. But then when you're this prize fighter who's got 80 fights under his belt, and you
Yeah.
go in there,
Yeah.
same thing as like fucking a girl. First, when you lose your virginity, you're in there, you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
No,
You
hell no.
fuck 500 girls,
Yeah.
you're like, all right,
Yeah.
it's nothing.
That's true. But still, if you fucked like Adriana Lima, you'd be nervous.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't even know who that is, but she sounds hot.
You don't know who Adrienne Lima is?
I don't
Like
know
that
any
hot, like
famous hot
Victoria's
chicks.
Secret. Okay, who's the most famous hot chick?
I probably don't know her.
Who could you hook up with tomorrow that would make you nervous? Anyone?
Princess Di, because she's dead.
Okay.
No, I don't know. To be honest, it's like I've never followed hot chicks on Instagram. I only follow my girlfriend and my employee Kim. I really am just like opposed to the idea of following hot chicks on Instagram, and also because my girlfriend used to work for this like networking agency thing,
Yeah.
so she knows every hot girl, every hot Instagram girl. I do not know one of them.
So you just stay away.
I just
But
don't
you don't
know.
have like a girl in your head. Is there any time frame? There's not one girl in your head that's like, man, I would do anything to bone her.
I just don't even know who they are or anything about them.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't have TV. I don't watch movies. People are like talking about all these famous actresses and shit. I do not know one of them.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
only
yeah.
people I know by name, like, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's people involved in rap.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea who Miley Cyrus was till she started taking black dick.
Yeah.
You know, as soon
that
I had
was,
no
she opened
idea.
up to a whole new
Bro,
demographic.
I did not know who Kylie Jenner was until she started fucking Tyga. I
Yeah.
had no clue. And then I found out, I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know who she is. Actually, okay, Kylie Jenner, there, she's hot.
Yeah.
I'll give it
Would
to
you
her.
be nervous to hook up with her?
I think I'd be more weirded out. Like,
Yeah, 'cause
why are you
she's
doing
so-
this? What the fuck are
yeah.
you thinking? It was a terrible idea for your career. People are really going to look down on you for this. Would I be nervous, though? Yes.
You would.
I mean, if she was like, yeah, hey, Adam, come over and fuck me.
Yeah, you'd be like, ah, fuck.
I'm about, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? You're going to ruin your whole life.
That's possible, though. I could see that happening. Okay, so what I usually do is I go back to the very, very beginning so that
Okay.
people can really wrap their heads around like how you got into this crazy world that we now live in. Where are you from?
I'm from Nashua, New Hampshire, which is a small city, population about 85,000 people. It's right outside the Massachusetts border. I could drive from about 5 minutes from my parents' house and be outside of New Hampshire and in Massachusetts. And it's also about like 30, 40 minutes away from Boston.
Got it.
So a little bit of the suburb lifestyle, a little bit of a city thing where I kind of was exposed to, a lot of times people hear New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, you're on like an old mountain covered with snow," and it's like, no, it was a small city, but it wasn't L.A., but it was a little something. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Did you go to Boston a lot or no?
Yeah, especially once I like got into BMX, we would just always make our friends' moms or dads or whatever give us like a ride to the train.
Yeah.
Take the train in, ride BMX from noon to like 9 p.m. Have the time of our lives, and then like because we're like 14 or 15, and we would just save our money and be in like the record store too, and just doing all this stuff. Because I just from very, very early on, it was so obvious to me that I wanted to be in a big city and that
Really?
I was just not cut out for the small town life. Like
Yeah.
everything. Like when I realized that I could even ride my bike around downtown Nashua where I lived, like I would go out when I got into BMX, I would ride around with those dudes until like 3, 4 in the morning. And that was so freeing to me to realize like, oh, like I could be away from my parents. I could just be in
Yeah.
this environment and be out and about in the city.
Yeah, that's how it was for me with skating. Because I grew up skating, and it was like we would just, however we could, we'd go downtown. I'm from Akron, Ohio. We go downtown, and it was just that ability to, like you said, just do whatever you want. You know, and like you'd go to the store and grab snacks, and like your lunch would be like Fritos and Mountain Dew, and then you'd go to this other skate spot, and like.
And a lot of people, like, when they talk about skateboarding or BMX, they talk about the learning and the progression. Like, oh, learning a tray flip is a big deal because it, like, teaches you to learn a new skill and stuff like that. And then you can kind of take that and be like, oh, well, if I could learn to do a tray flip, I could do a tray flip down a 10 stair, and then maybe I can get a TV show one day and shit like that. And it's all progression. But then the other thing about BMX or skateboarding that I think is a big deal is it just gives you a vehicle to escape and to show yourself that, like, you don't have to be caught up in the house. You could get the fuck out of there and you could just go. And that's what meant a lot to me as a kid.
It's huge for that, man. And I think that it's like that, that being able to, like, it's kind of the combination of what you're saying, but like being able to survive on your own, I think was an important part for me. Like, so when it came time for me to move to LA, even though I was kind of nervous about it because it seemed so far from home and blah, 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 like there's just that element of like, well, there's going to be skateboarders there, right? And I kind of know how to travel and how to be around by myself and be self-sufficient, even if it means eating potato chips and drinking soda all day. I know that I can at least survive, because I feel like you don't lean on a team or a coach or a, you know what I mean? You figure it out yourself.
Yeah, like when you think about that, like if you spend like 13 to 18 skateboarding or riding BMX, you're independent the whole time. And that in a lot of ways mirrors what it is to be a human being in 2017. Whereas like being part of a football team, we live in a very individualist society.
Yeah.
And like being part of the football team, when was football invented? Like, I don't even fucking know, but it was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And it's basically like I think BMX and skateboarding popped up as the anti-football, the anti-basketball,
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, you're somebody who doesn't want to have to be a part of a group and you just
Yeah.
want to do your own thing. Well, this could appeal to you.
Yeah. And it's also like when you get out of school and you don't go into the NFL, like you don't have a coach to tell
Right.
you what to do every day. You don't have other teammates. You don't have and like being just self-sufficient, I think was so important.
And
You
there's
know what
really
I
only
mean?
one way to be good at sports, which is to get the most points or do the best. Like at
And
the end of the day, there's a
yeah.
lot of stylistic differences and everything. I'm completely open to the idea that in basketball, there's an art to it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about scoring points. And at the end of the day, in skateboarding, it's really not about anything. There's no
Yeah.
goal. There's like you could do a trick, you could not do a trick. We all know skateboarders that we love who do the biggest shit or do the most tech stuff, the newest stuff. But you could also like there's skateboarders that everybody fucks with who just kind of go out and just
Yeah.
will film their little Instagram clips of doing simple stuff, but you just like it because you like them.
Yeah, it's
You
like an
know?
individuality and like style thing.
Mhm.
Um, were you ever into sports or anything before BMX or not really?
So my thing is that I needed glasses from the age of from a small child to like the age in about third or fourth grade. I got glasses.
Uh-huh.
So when I look back at it, it's like my parents were pushing me hard to be into basketball and baseball and stuff, but I think I always had pretty like bad vision, so I had bad like hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I like always like really failed at that stuff like early on.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like drove me in the direction of being more into like video games and writing and drawing and stuff because I didn't feel like I always felt sort of left behind in that regard. So I never really liked sports, and even to this day, like I couldn't even tell you how to play football.
Yeah.
I never watched a baseball game or a basketball game. I mean, I've watched it like being with other people, but I never cared or understood.
I know, like now I find myself trying to get into it
Mhm.
because like so many of my friends and
Right.
people I work with do it, and like I just spent so many years not caring,
Mhm.
and all the Cleveland teams at the time when I was growing up sucked,
Right.
so you couldn't even have any like hometown pride, and like now it's so hard for me, man. I'm trying to get into it, but it's so programmed in my brain to just not care.
Yeah, I listen to some podcasts like The Brilliant Idiots with Charlamagne and Andrew Schultz, which I love. But then all of a sudden they're talking about, free throw percentages and shit. I'm just like, okay,
Just
it,
checked
it
out.
would be like if they just started speaking in fucking Ecuadorian and real quick. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Stop.
shit.
Leave me alone. I turn it off.
Man.
Fast forward.
So when you got into BMXing, that was like your thing. Like, was that your like, I found my shit. I found my friends. I found my thing.
Yeah, I definitely found my tribe, I guess you could say, because I was always into like rap and like punk and stuff like that. I was always into art, but I never had this thing where all of a sudden I became a BMX rider, which was not an easy thing to like consider yourself because it was very much like a group of dudes who were not like open to outsiders and
Yeah.
they thought everybody was a fucking loser. They were like very punk rock, everybody's a loser, everybody's
Yeah.
a dork, fuck everybody. But at the same time, like as soon as I started hanging out with like the local BMX scene, I just realized that I was actually part of something. I remember like this one dude wanted to fight me after school, and like some of the BMX dudes who I didn't even really realize that they were like my real friends.
Yeah.
That they were like, nah, don't worry, we got you. Like we're gonna fuck this dude up if he wants to do anything. And I was just like, whoa, that's so sick. I didn't realize I had signed up for that.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Damn it.
But
So
then I still felt like a pussy, and I was a pussy because I didn't even have to fight the dude. I don't even remember what happened.
did they end
but-
up beating him up or no?
No, but it was just more like they told the kid like I had this one friend Corey who I'm like still really good friends with, but he's like the number one dude that if I told him like, yo, like I got a problem with this dude, he would just beat like even
Yeah.
right now I could call him and be like, yo, there's a guy who lives a half hour away from you. Can you go to his house tonight and break his leg with a crowbar? And I bet he would do it.
Yeah.
And I would like send him like $500 just to make him happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad I never had to do that, but I bet he would do it.
Yeah. Damn it. That's real friendship.
You need friends like that, you know?
Yeah, you do. What did you do well in school, in high school?
Terrible.
Really?
Absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Why you think you just didn't like it at all?
I got attention deficit disorder out the ass. I just
Yep.
can't pay attention to anything I don't care about. Is just not happening.
Yep.
Like I just can't.
So like 16-year-old Adam is just obsessed with BMX, art, hip hop, punk,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give a fuck about school.
Yep.
Um,
Fingering my girlfriend was
Fingering
very
your
high on my list of
girlfriend.
things to do at the time.
yeah.
Trying to fuck, wouldn't let me fuck
Damn.
until I dated her for 2 years before she let me hit.
At what age? When-
18.
Damn.
So like
So you
whenever
were just-
people are like, you lost your virginity at 18, I'm like, yeah, bro, it would have been 15 if this girl didn't hold out on me for 2 years. I know that math doesn't add up, but I was dating her from like late 15 to like 18, and like,
Oh, man.
sucks. She's married now.
Really? Does she still live in
Yep.
Massachusetts?
She's married, so it's like she wouldn't let me fuck, and now she's married.
Yeah,
You saw how
so
that
look-
turned out.
Look how that turned out. You prude.
Nah, she did
Um,
eventually. It was just took a while.
Yeah, that's a long time for like. I feel like when you're young, you start to explore that like pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I was nuts over her. But she was letting me do every single thing besides that. I was eating her ass when I was 15 eating ass.
Really?
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
Damn it.
Yeah.
She then she made you wait 2 years to bone.
2 years.
Hmm.
Terrible.
How long did you stay together after you boned?
We were already broken up by that point.
Really?
Yeah.
What a weird why. Why did she?
I don't know. She lived with her like real religious parents like while we were dating, and then we like because she like moved out as soon as she graduated high school, which especially and she didn't go to college. Where for us that was very out of the ordinary. It's
Yeah.
like nobody really moved out to just live in downtown Nashua, where
Yeah.
like if you're gonna move out, you're going to college or you went like did something. She just moved out and then like started like drinking like real tough, and like I think she realized like all that stupid religious shit that I was on before is. I probably should have been having sex and drinking more.
Yeah. I think that's usually how it works.
Mm,
You know, I think when you're like too caged up,
exactly.
you just break loose. What about? Did you went to college, right?
Yeah, like when I graduated high school, my mom was like, "Listen, you're either gonna pay rent and live here, or you're gonna, not pay rent, or you're gonna live for free, but you got to go to college."
Yeah.
And I actually had a really good situation too, because my mom worked for basically worked for the Massachusetts like school department as a community college librarian. So she was able to get me like I got to go to college for free basically because of her job, which is crazy. But then I still like my first year I did good. My second year I kind of hated it, and then I just dropped out.
Yeah.
So.
What was your mentality of like? Were you just like, I'm going to do this just because it's better than living at home and paying rent? Like you didn't have any like goal or anything really, right?
No, I just realized like, oh, I could probably spend like 15 or 20 hours a week doing this school shit, and that'll like get my mom off my back so I can keep riding bikes, going to hardcore shows, and hanging out with these little girls around the area and stuff. I mean, I'm 19, so I'm still just like straight, just trying to fuck every girl that I know and stuff, and like just So college wasn't that great for me though because I was still straight edge.
Oh yeah, you were straight edge.
Yeah.
Why were you straight edge? That was kind of the group you fell into.
That was kind of like real popular around that time. You
Yeah.
know, like fucking around that time in the hardcore scene, especially. It's like most of the like I didn't really know people who smoked a lot of weed or drank in the hardcore scene. It's like everybody I knew who was getting fucked up was like a party boy, a little like frat boy type kid, like who I went to
Yeah.
school with, who I really didn't fuck with. So to me, like straight edge was kind of like reacting to that in a lot of ways.
Yep. That's crazy. And then so then you broke out of that like during college time.
Well, I actually like formally said I wasn't straight edge anymore when I was like 21, but then I didn't really start drinking or anything until I was like 24 or 25, which I actually really credit in a lot of ways to like being able to sort of like now I can go out and get fucked up, and it's like it really doesn't feel like I have any sort of like ability to get addicted to that kind of thing, And I think it's because I avoided it when my brain was still very much developing.
Yep. So you've never had any like issues with that stuff.
No, I mean I had this is one bad week that I've talked about a few times, and like then in the LA Weekly article they said like, oh, you used to have a Xanax habit or whatever. And I'm like, okay, bro, that was one bad week. It was like I had this girl fly out from Ireland, and like she just was like, oh, come pick me up. I pick her up. We just like we're hanging out for a week, and she had this big bag of Xans, and she's like, oh, do you want some? And like me and my roommate, we didn't really know. I thought they were like Vicodins or something. I thought it was like a painkiller. So I'm like, oh, sure, why not? It's not that big a deal. Oh my God. I was on a fucking cloud for a week straight.
And you just kept going back to back to back to back?
Yeah, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the reason why I kept taking more was because I had already taken them. Because like Xanax makes your anxiety go away. It makes you feel very like laid back and no nerves or anything. So you'll just it's like, oh yeah, I'll do more drugs. It's like the perfect drug to make you do more drugs. Which is that's a scary thing. So it was a rough week, and I was doing nothing. I was laying around with her, just like laying in bed, watching TV and shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we ran out, and then I like went right back to normal, and I was like, oh God, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, it sounds great though. I mean, it sounds like a nice week vacation.
I mean, that's quite a way to go through your life. If you
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand all these new rappers and stuff that we were talking about, like where they just literally like I feel like they're gonna spend like 5 years in just a Xanax cloud. Like I don't understand. I feel like one day like all these young guys are just gonna wake up and be like, "What the hell did I just do? I had a rap career." That's crazy.
And I mean, like even when you interview a lot of these dudes, I'm interviewing Lil Pump and Smoke Purp, and it's like, oh, how'd you guys meet? And they're like, I don't remember.
Like they're not gonna remember like massive chunks.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad that I have like the vlogs from that Smoke Purp and Lil Pump tour, because I feel like they probably wouldn't remember those days or like so much.
Yeah. Man, it's so interesting.
It's scary.
I feel like Xanax is real hot in the rap world right now. Like trending higher than ever.
What if they take it off the market like they did with like oxys and fucking
Lean.
lean?
It took activists. I feel like it took. I think that it took Justin Bieber.
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah,
that's what happened with activists. Yeah,
I think that's what tipped it.
it's still crazy though because people still get lean so consistently, but it's like you really, if you're just some random motherfucker, you probably can't get lean.
Yeah,
It's like rappers, people who are famous, like know the dudes who can get it, but then regular kids, I don't know how you get.
Yeah, I really feel like they kind of killed
unless
it.
you get a script. Yeah, but you can still get quality and high tech and all that bullshit, whack. But it's like the activists just went straight the fuck away. I don't know.
I wonder. I wonder if that was a Bieber thing. That was always the rumor.
Maybe we'll
What about college? Did you get in any, like in that stage of your life? Were you getting in any trouble or like was there anything like that going on? Or are you relatively like navigated, sort of being able to have your fun and not really?
Oh, I was real fucked up. I was doing like I was like shoplifting like crazy to like resell the stuff and get money, and then that eventually turned into like doing credit card fraud. And I was just scamming for like a year or two there and just kind of going crazy with that. So that's like basically why I dropped out of college because I was like, I'm gonna move to New York. I'm making all this money. I'm making enough money that I could move to New York and figure shit out.
Yeah,
my mentality.
Yeah. So you were just hustling like. So college. So you were doing. You didn't have a normal job while you were in college, right?
I was gonna have to get a normal job, and that's why I started doing all this illegal shit because I just basically realized that I was willing to take the risk of getting in trouble to not have to have a job. Because I was so horrified by the idea of like having to go get a job at I don't know, a grocery store or some shit. I was just not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, I'll do anything to avoid that. And I didn't know how to sell drugs at the time. So that took a few years.
Yeah. So scamming and that's what you ended up getting into.
Yeah, like 2003, 2004 era scamming, which is kind of weird to think about because nowadays people still do it all the time. I see these dudes on the block on Melrose with crazy. They get the big body Uber for 8 hours, and I don't know. That's not in their name.
Yeah,
so I don't know whose name it is, but there's a new version of scamming that I don't know about.
No shit. What was your mom upset when you dropped out of college? And
yeah, I remember when I moved to New York. I moved to Queens. And I remember her like hugging me as I was leaving and just crying a little bit and saying, "You're a fucking idiot. Like you're gonna regret this. Why are you doing this?" Because up to that point, she had tried to be pretty positive about the idea of me moving to New York. But like in the moment of me leaving, it was just like, "What the fuck are you thinking? Like this is so stupid." Like because you know, from somebody like her perspective, she worked her whole life saving money every single week so that me and my sister could go to college. You know, and like in a small like family like the one I grew up in, stuff. You know. Maybe like my uncle donated $10,000 at some points in my college fund and shit like that. And like, you know, that's a really, really big deal to people like my family who came from nothing. My family grew up so poor on both sides and then like worked their asses off, real American dream shit to get to the point where now they're like solidly middle class, you know? Didn't spend a lot of money my whole childhood. I would say that like I never remember getting maybe more than like $100 worth of shit on Christmas when I have to think about it. But I had a lot of friends who would have these crazy Christmases where I bet their parents were spending, $500, $1,000 on them. And when I think about it, I would get like a book and like a couple pairs of underwear, maybe like a sweater.
Yeah,
I had a very like humble upbringing.
Did that did that fuck with you at all when you were younger, or like were you like, why is fucking Steve getting all this shit and I'm here with my book and
it took me a while to realize that like cause I literally had a friend who got like a Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo for Christmas. Literally, I like told my parents like I want a Super Nintendo, and I got like a $50 gift certificate to fucking Toys R Us to put towards the Super Nintendo, and like shit like that though is like 100% like there's a Gucci line where he says I could never hold a job down like my father, but I could hit the block and push the rock Sean Carter or something like that. And I don't care for the second part. The first part though, when he said I could never hold a job down like my father, I was like, oh my God, that's how I felt since I was a kid. Like my dad is a good, honest man and I'm not. And I'm going to do whatever the fuck I got to do to make it. He worked his ass off his whole life to get to a steady grind. I'm like, nah, that's not me.
Yeah, man.
I'm on the block.
Yeah. Damn,
one way or another.
Why New York?
So basically, like when I finished that second year at college, I had applied to go to a better college, and I got approved. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you could go to college for your third year, and you're gonna actually, keep advancing. Maybe after that, you could like get approved to go to a school in Boston or New York. And like, actually, I was like, geez, am I gonna really continue with this college thing? I was like, man, fuck it. I just don't. I'm just gonna run the risk and just like drop out, move to New York, and just try to live off the money that I had saved and make bike videos. Like I had a camera. I was like, I'm just gonna be out there. I'm just gonna go and meet up with different people as much as I can, and just try to start making BMX videos, like a lot of the dudes that I kind of grown up looking up to.
Yeah.
And then I move out there, and like I've always dealt with my back. Like my lower back has always just had a lot of issues since I was really young. And when I moved out there, somehow I just fucking yanked my back out of place so bad, just threw it out to the point where it took like maybe a month or two before I felt like okay enough to like ride bikes again. At that point, I was just like, man, I got to figure out something to work on, not to mention money, but just like something to fill my days and like fill my mind up because I just needed something to focus on. So I took $250 and I put it in an online poker account. And then from that day on, for the next couple of years, I was spending about 10 hours a day sitting there playing online poker, 12 tables open at all times. Maybe I started with 8. By the end of it, I was on 12. And I was just grinding it out, just like spending time on message boards, trying to learn as much as I could about poker. Was doing really good. Like for a couple of years there, I was probably doing about 6 figures, but then the games kept getting harder. And at a certain point, I just realized, like, I hate this. Like, I had a friend who worked at Urban Outfitters,
Yeah.
and I remember just talking to him and, like, realizing that I felt like my life was, like, way better than his. But then I'm talking to him, and I'm realizing, like, oh, he's going to, like, parties. He's talking about some random girl he met on his job and stuff. And I just realized, like, my life has, like, ceased to have any sort of social element, and that's just
like,
a huge issue. Like, no matter the fact that I'm making, 10 times the money that this dude is making, this dude has a 10 times better life than me.
yeah.
Just because he's having fun. He's actually out there like doing stuff, even if he's got to work at Urban Outfitters, 40 hours a week. So as soon as so I had basically decided like I got to figure something out. Like I got to stop doing this fucking poker shit. And then so I was sort of looking for a way out. But the thing about spending that much time online too is I also was just becoming deeply familiar with the internet and just the stuff that there was to look at online. Like BMX was one of my main interests, so I was spending tons of time on like BMX message boards, just paying attention to the conversations that were going on there. And then at the same time, I was also paying a lot of attention to like the emerging rap blogs at the time, because this is when rap really started to move to websites like Now Right, Two Dope Boys.
Yeah. What year is this? Like
2006.
Okay.
Is when I started the website. So I think those websites popped up about 2005. But I mean, I've been online like nonstop since like 1998. Like that had always been my life, is like go ride bikes like 8 hours a day and then go home and stay on the internet until 4 a.m. And so I just realized like, oh, like this is a real opportunity right here. Like I could start a blog and just make it about BMX videos and BMX news, because that's exactly what these rap blogs are doing. And I just realized like, this is a great idea, and nobody's done it yet because it's pretty new.
Yeah.
So I started it. It wasn't supposed to be anything special. Originally, it was just the comeup.blogspot.com or something. And so I started it and did pretty, like from day one, it was pretty popular. And then I started to write more. I started a message board at one point, and it all just started to just do pretty good for it. And I remember I had a dollar amount in my head because I was selling my own advertisements to BMX brands for, maybe $200 or $300 a month. And I said in my head, I'm like, I'm going to get 8 companies. And once I get 8, that's $2,000 a month. And that's enough that I'm not like probably wasting money every month. I probably could I was living off like, $2,000 a month. So I wouldn't have to touch my savings. As soon as I got to that $2,000 a month, I was like, all right, cool. Quit poker, withdrew all my money, and went 100% on the BMX website thing.
How nuts. Do you remember how much you took out of, or did it not really work like this, but how much you withdrew from the poker? Like if you started with 250, is there any number of like how much you made?
I kept withdrawing money over the years, but I remember that moment when I withdrew, I maybe had like $30,000 in the account. But I mean,
it's insane.
Yeah, it was cool. But then it just, and you know what? I got so lucky too, because I took that $30,000 out, and then a couple months later or whatever, they fucking shut down online poker, and everybody lost tons of money. So I think I still maybe had like 1,000 or 2,000 in my account, but I didn't lose 20 or 30 grand, which I would have probably had in that account if I was still playing.
Yeah, I remember that. We were real big on it. I remember there was a time literally when I thought this was like, had to be around the same time, but I legitimately did the calculations in my head about how I could do online poker and not have to get a job or not have to worry about anything.
Every dude, it was their fantasy for a few years. I remember it was on TV every second of the day, and it was that motherfucker Chris Moneymaker. He won He won the fucking World Series of Poker. He didn't know jack shit. If you actually look back at how he played all those hands, it was terrible. But he really opened the door to like random ass white guys to be like, oh, maybe I could do this. And I was one of those dudes, and I tried really, really hard. I never really had like a mathematical mind, though, to be honest. Like that was never my strong
You think
suit.
it just clicked for you?
I just worked so hard at it, and the competition was not very strong at that time.
Yeah.
What happened was like around like 2007, 2008, 2009, they started marketing poker, online poker, to like Asia and stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden you have these people who have like a really bad quality of life who can maybe figure out how to grind out, you know, a couple dollars an hour or even $10 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever. That's huge to them. So then you had this like entire continent full of like people trying to learn how to play online poker. And I feel like that was the main thing. Not to mention that it was just even your average guy on the couch in America probably was figuring out how to calculate pot odds in his head or realize that you can't raise 50% of the time pre-flop, realizing what being in position was, all the stupid shit that I barely remember anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like around that time was when it just started to be, in the early days though, if you were playing online poker in 2002, 3, 4, it was ridiculous because there were so many people who had no fucking clue what they were doing.
Yeah, you're right.
It just didn't take that long for them to figure it out.
That's what happened. I think when it blew up, like everyone thought they were going to get rich. Because I thought for sure. It took me probably 2 weeks to realize there was no chance, and I sucked at it, and I was just dumping money into this thing. But like, I think hundreds of thousands of people all at the same time were like, wait a minute, there's something here.
It would have been really cool if I had figured it out. Well, things wouldn't have gone as they went. But yeah, sometimes I think that, like, because I had just a bunch of luck early on, really. Not a bunch of luck because there were really a lot of hard times and stuff too. But I remember like pretty early on that I gained enough points or whatever to enter some $50 tournament for free and won like $7,000. And was just like, that $7,000 was the most mind-blowing amount of money to me at the time. Like, even though I already had money from doing illegal shit, I was like, I just made 7,000 taxable dollars that I can report. Like, what the fuck? Lost my mind. Like,
it's insane. And when you see that, you're like, well, this is going to be the rest of my life. I'm rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just doing this for a living.
Yeah, and I remember even like bragging to like my old high school girlfriend and telling her like, hey, I made $800 this week off online poker, and her being like, big deal. I made $800 this week at my job. And I remember being like, yeah, but you had to go to your job. I was sitting in my house. Yes. In her mind, she's like, yeah, you made $800 this week. And what are you going to do next week? And there's no assurance that this is going to work out for you. In my mind, I'm like, I don't have a job. Fuck you, bitch.
Yeah, you blew it. Check me out. God damn it. Did you ever go to actual poker tournaments or no?
I never like tournaments, but I went to like Vegas and like Atlantic City and shit like that a few times, and I played in real life. But I never. The thing about playing online is that you could probably play like 1,000 hands in an hour if you're playing 10 tables or 12 tables, whereas in real life you're playing like 30.
Does it seem boring in real life?
Hell yeah, it's so slow and boring.
Yeah.
So I'm over that now. I could never imagine playing poker again. Really.
Yeah, you don't even play at all now?
No, I could barely remember. I went through a phase about a year ago where I watched a lot of online videos on YouTube of poker, but those tournament videos and stuff, I don't think those really exist anymore aside from like World Series of Poker.
Yeah,
it's not very popular. They used to have Poker After Dark.
Yeah, they did.
That
Damn it,
was
yeah,
fire.
they did.
Mike Matisow and Phil Hellmuth, and they're fucking screaming at each other. That shit was
it.
so tight. That's some of the best like reality TV.
It is, man.
Because they're sitting there and they might really lose $100,000. Yeah, and that's just like, that's awesome as fuck to me.
I forgot how big it was. It's crazy to me how it just died like that.
Yeah.
So when you started the blog, that was the plan. Just get it up to that point where you don't have to do poker anymore, cash out, and then you're off and running on the blog. Quick question: Did you ever have a goal of being a pro BMXer, or did you know that like that wasn't for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being 18 or 19 and thinking like, oh, like, I just never had that kind of influence. Like, if you live in Southern California and you start to get good at skating, it's not that hard to be like, oh, Ryan Sheckler, oh, Terry Kennedy. Like, there's a model for, oh, look at Nyjah. It's like there's a model for what it is to be a pro skateboarder. Yeah. For me, I was a BMX rider, and yes, there were pro BMX riders, but they were all out here.
Yeah.
So I had even the idea that you could get paid to ride bikes was kind of foreign to me. For me, it was like, I just was obsessed with the subculture. I was obsessed with the videos, learning about it. And then it's like, in my head, it was like, oh, maybe if I'm really devoted to this BMX thing, I'll be able to go on some trips. Yeah. And I wasn't even thinking like, I'm not going to have to pay for it. I'll be like, maybe I'll chip in $200 and I can go in a van for gas money. And, I never had that thing in my head of being a pro. I wanted to be good at bike riding, but it was also pretty obvious to me from very early on that I was not as good as most of my friends, and
Yeah.
you know, but also pretty obvious to me that I just cared about it way more than my friends, in the sense that like when I was 16, I had friends who, you know, might have thought they were 18 and they thought I was kind of a poser because I was so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like somehow in my head I knew that this was like going to be really important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So did the blog take off and start making a lot more money than that in the original? Or
I mean, in the beginning, yeah, you
so
know,
if the goal was 2K a month,
yeah.
then did it have like this moment of kind of taking off, or was it always just sort of
You know, there was a real big false start that tripped me the fuck out, where I remember, you know, so I'm like, I quit online poker. I've got some money in the bank. I'm making a couple of $1,000s a month. And then this was right before the financial crash of
Mhm.
2008. And I remember this ad company hit me up and they were like, we can get you these really high paying ads, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, you know, I'm willing to try it out. We try it out. I got like a $10,000 check for the first month that I did it. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, this is insane. I'm like, because I was making my BMX company money too.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just made $13,000 this month. You know what that means? That means I'm the richest man in the world. I was, and I mean, almost
So
everybody listening
true.
to this is probably like, Jesus Christ, 13 grand a month is a lot. It doesn't seem that crazy to me anymore. But at that time, I was like, but
Rich.
you know,
Oh
that shit lasted
man.
like 2 months. That's all I'm saying. Then those checks went from $10,000 to 800 or 1,000,
Yeah.
because that financial crisis made it so all the banks, all the credit card companies, all the movies, all these crazy ad accounts, they all stopped spending like the way
Yeah.
that they were gonna. So it was, you know, it seemed really crazy for a little bit, but like the 10 years of me doing nothing but running the BMX website, when I look back at it, is basically like I was just preparing myself. I was working my ass off, but I also didn't really know what I was chasing after, you know?
Yeah.
But in the sense that now it's like I just know exactly what it is to work your ass off on something for 10 years and not make that much money, because and just keep doing it because you just care.
Yeah.
That it's like, to me, I'm glad I have that experience, because in rap there's an opportunity to make a lot of money,
Yep.
but it's also very easy for me to turn money down, because I'm just, you know, it's just I would never want to be the things that I don't like about rap media.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Side note, I remember when all I wanted in life was $10,000 a month.
Mm.
And if I could just figure out a way to get $10,000 a month, I could have everything I ever wanted.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was
And
like,
when I'm talking about those early days of me moving to Queens, it was like, yo, I need to find a way to make 1,000 or 1,500 bucks a month,
yeah,
because my
yeah.
standard of living was so low that I was like, if I get $1,000 a month, that should be all right.
Well, yeah. 100%. There was definitely those days, but I
Yeah.
mean, like 10,000 was
Mhm.
rich to me.
Yeah.
10,000 a month was like, okay, I could lease this car, I could live in that apartment. Like technically, if I spent every dollar, this would be my life, and it would be perfect.
Yeah, and you always have that in your head. Whereas for me now, the other day I was in the studio with like a music industry guy, and he's just straight up like, "Yeah, I make about 4 million a year," and I was just like, "All right, that's
Yeah,
good. Like that's dope." Like, but it didn't seem like the most improbable thing.
yeah,
And also, it's like you just realize at a certain point that, you know, you're dreaming of that 10 grand a month, and then you start dreaming about like, man, can I make 50? Can I do 100? But at a certain point, it's like you realize none of this is really like a real goal. It's just a game that you're
yeah,
playing. It's like,
yeah,
how many shots can you make in the game tomorrow night? It's like, if you win the game, it doesn't really matter,
yeah,
you know. But it's like you always just want to have those goals in your head, because what I'm scared of is becoming the kind of person that makes enough money that I no longer really give a fuck about doing podcasts, or that I like,
yeah,
you know, that's what's scary to me, is like, could I possibly get to the point where I'm not going to be passionate about this because I don't have to be?
yeah.
I'm not that worried
So that
about
would
it.
be your fear. Your fear would be that like you could lose passion, and
The
it
hunger,
becomes
because that's what happened in the BMX thing. I did it for like 10 years, started to get bored. You know, I was doing different things. Like in 2009, I started On Some Shit, which is my clothing brand. And then I moved to LA. That helped a bunch. We made a bunch of DVDs. But you know, we made it, and I started a bike shop. Started to go a lot harder with the clothing line and everything. But then at a certain point, I'm starting to realize like, oh, like I'm just not like in love with like doing blog posts every day, or like,
yeah,
you know, and realizing like, oh, I'm making all these BMX videos, but at the end of the day, it's a bunch of dudes who've been riding BMX for however many years. The people who are already riding bikes are the ones who are watching my videos. I'm not bringing anybody in.
yeah,
I'm not making the sport bigger, anything like that. And it just started to get boring to me. That's why I started doing BMX podcasts. I was like, I'm just gonna interview all these riders that I know and stuff. But from very early on, the second interview I ever did was with this dude Xavier Wolf, who's
uh-huh,
still a good friend of mine, pretty popular rapper out here in LA. A lot of people, he's part of the Seshala Water Boys with Bones and Chris Travis and Eddie Baker.
yeah,
And I just somehow made friends with them, did one interview, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, like that got a way bigger response than any of the BMX ones that I would do.
Yeah.
And then that kind of opened the floodgates where I had all these people coming up to me in public and being like, "You're the dude who did the Xavier interview. That was fucking dope." And I can't lie. Like, I'm addicted to the feedback. Like, I'm addicted
Oh
to the comments.
yeah.
I'm addicted to,
Yeah.
like, that the money's cool, the accolades are cool, the followers are cool. But at the end of the day, it's like if somebody comes up to you in real life and is like, "Yo, that interview you did fucked me up. Like, that changed my life a little bit." I'm
Yeah.
like, God, that's such an addictive feeling.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
you're jamming a fucking heroin needle in your arm when
It's
you hear
so
that.
true, man. It's like, and how do you, oh man, when you start to get off from that and like
Mhm.
trying to recorrect and find that feeling again
Mhm.
is tough. Um, that's interesting, man. It's interesting that you say that like that's a fear of yours of I just don't feel like you're that type of guy. Like a fear of
Yeah.
like, getting so rich that you don't care anymore. Because really what was happening, it sounds like with the BMX thing was it was almost like all passion, no money.
Right. And,
Right?
and and in a way that was it too, is like, oh shit, am I gonna be 40 one day and I'm gonna still be at where I'm at money wise because there's not really any money in this?
Yeah.
But then at the same time too, it was just the thing about it was just challenging myself and realizing also that it's like, oh, all these BMX kids that I care about so much, because that's always been a big thing to me too, is like I don't want to look like a sellout. I don't want to look like I don't care
Yeah.
about the future of this culture and everything. But then I started doing all these rap interviews and I realized like, oh, all these the same kids who ride BMX are the same kids who listen to rap.
Yeah.
And they probably would rather see me do fucking rap interviews than interview some random BMX guy, because
Yeah.
at a certain point when I had already done 100 BMX interviews, I'm kind of scraping
Yeah.
to find people to talk to.
And I think the BMX kids listen to the rap interviews. I don't know that the rap fans listen to the BMX interviews. You know what I mean? Like it goes down.
Yeah.
From the larger audience down to the smaller subcultures. So
Yeah.
you're reaching more people as opposed to like that's where I think a lot of people go wrong is they stay too niche and they kind of keep it too real. And
Right.
it's like, you could reach everybody. You know what I mean? Like a BMX kid is not exclusively a BMX kid. Like you said, he
Right.
also listens to these same artists. He
And
blah, blah, blah.
that's why skateboarding has won, is because
Yeah.
skateboarding from the very beginning allowed itself to become part of overall street culture, youth culture, mainstream culture,
Yeah.
etc. You know, there's a fucking, BMX has had some good pop culture looks. We had Dave Mirra, shit like that. But when you look at Ryan Sheckler, when you look at Deer Dick, when you look at fucking all these dudes, I mean, they all just have Tony Hawk, Bam.
Yeah, yeah.
They
When you have
all
Pharrell calling himself Skateboard P, and
exactly.
you know what I mean?
You
Like,
know, and it's
yeah.
like all that. When you look at it, it's like there's basically two things that I think from a marketing perspective that like action sports can pull off, and it's like the cool factor and the extreme factor.
Mhm.
And the problem for BMX is that the cool factor has pretty much like exclusively been occupied by skateboarders.
Yeah.
In the sense that like you know what did it? Avril with that fucking Skater Boy song,
Yeah,
bro.
no shit.
Like the idea that a skateboarder was a hot type of guy that you probably should want to date was
Yeah.
like boom, like that's the new quarterback when she put that song out, you
Yep.
know? And then on the other hand, if the extreme element, once these motherfuckers on motocross started to do double backflips, then it's like, oh, well, we don't give a fuck about a tail whip or a backflip on a BMX bike anymore.
Yeah.
So, but to me, like BMX is, it's just a culture of people who are just riding bikes, like in the same way that it doesn't necessarily need to be compared to those things, because at the end of the day, like there's always just going to be some group of kids in your high school that just want to ride bikes because
Yeah.
they love the feeling of it, and
Yeah.
that was me. And that's what I try to stay in touch with.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll never go away. I just think that like it's cool the way that you've sort of progressed. I think where I see a lot of really good, not that I'm here to save the world, but a lot of really good, really smart people with a lot that they want to give. Um, a lot of times people go wrong by just staying too
Mhm.
small. And it's
Yeah.
like you just the same way you had that transition of, oh shit, I can interview rappers and it gets way more attention, or these people or those people. Some people are just like, no, I can't do that because I'd be leaving my
Mhm.
my thing.
And a
It's
lot of
like,
times, BMX kids in random towns will like FaceTime me or send me clips of them at like a house party, and they got like a bunch of dudes who all watch my shit at
Yeah.
that house party and stuff. And to them, they have to talk to that BMX kid because they know he knows me, or they know that I'm one of
Yeah.
their only cultural reference points to BMX, which is kind of crazy. But I feel like I could do more from the inside to help out that subculture than I could do from just beating away at doing like hardcore BMX content. Like for me,
Yeah.
I would rather do a vlog or a podcast where there's some talk about BMX rather than me just being like, okay, I'm going to take $100,000 to make this the most epic BMX video that
Yeah.
20,000 people are going to see.
Yeah.
At
That's
the end of the
smart.
day, insular marketing is only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the difference in that way of thinking.
Mhm.
So as the blog stuff is coming to an end, you're getting kind of bored. It's getting
Well, it's still
stale
going, by the way. I still own it, and it's still the #1 BMX website.
right now.
I don't,
But you
yeah,
just got
I
bored
don't
of it.
update it. I just have employees that do it for me now.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, so you're getting bored of the blog. That's when you started podcasting?
Yeah, I was just sort of getting bored with that. I was like, I want to do like a bigger contribution. So I started doing BMX ones. That led into the rap ones. And then the rap, not even rap, because in the beginning, No Jumper wasn't supposed to be just rap. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be streetwear, skateboarders, everybody. You know, just everybody I was interested in, because I've always been into skateboarding, and I
Yeah.
wanted to do a skateboard interview. Like I did this photographer, Jacob Messick, who's just like a dude that I met at the bar, who's super, super talented, works for the skateboard mag and stuff like that. And for me, it was like, it's always just been about, I want to have conversations. I want to dig super deep into the niche content that I'm interested in. Like I've always been the kind of guy who's going to stay up till 5 in the morning because I found out about, you know, some documentary or some article or
Yeah.
whatever, and I just want to learn shit. So it kind of became like, oh, I can meet somebody and then actually go and have a conversation with them through my podcast, not to mention have a business based out of that. It was
Yeah.
just like everything clicked with that, and I just realized like this is going to make me way happier than anything else I have going on in my life right now.
Yeah. Was it hard for you to get over the hump of sitting and talking to people one on one?
Mm,
Like in the very first two, was it awkward or no?
you know, when I look back at it, I think I felt a bunch of nerves going into it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really that awkward. I feel like from the beginning I was okay at it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I from the beginning I used to always say too, like, hey, like I don't know that I'm gonna be good at this. This is just something I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that was why it kind of tripped me out to get such a crazy like viral response to a couple of the early ones. Is because I was like, Jesus, I wanted like some room to breathe to be able
Yeah.
to just try to work on my skills doing this.
Yep.
And only in like the recent months have I ever, like, I remember I was at Coachella. You know Braden Safransky?
Yeah, I do.
So he's a super legendary skater who's fucking actually become a pretty good friend of mine. But we were at the Weed Maps house,
Uh-huh.
and I was like microdosing mushrooms. I was doing coke. I had like fucking 15 PBRs in me.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, do you want to interview Braden?" And I'm like, all right, like I don't give a fuck.
Uh-huh.
In that moment, I was like super cocky and confident, like, all right, let's do the interview. I don't have to fucking study or research him at all. And I just went in and did it. And as soon as I finished, I'm just like thinking about it. And I'm like, that's the fucking mentality I need to have right there. Is like that real confidence of like, I'm not worried about anything when it comes to this
Yeah.
interview. I'm just gonna do this. So that was kind of a weird, like them making me do a surprise interview while I was fucked up, just completely opened it up and made me feel more comfortable with it, I think.
And you did the interview was good.
Yeah, it was solid.
And so now you approach it like more with that mentality.
I wish I had sunglasses. My eyes were bugging out of my head a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I'm sober right now. Actually, I just drank a huge cup of coffee. If I sound a little
That'll do
crazy,
it.
yeah.
So now you think about that is like, because I've tried to do that with mine. On mine, I started by not researching at all to really sort of organic. I mean, I obviously would know what someone did or whatever, but like to really go through their story and be genuinely curious from the beginning to the end. The problem was for me, some of the big roadblocks are like if somebody doesn't do a lot of interviews or doesn't quite know how to tell their story, you have to be able to lead them a little. So I'm trying to find the sweet spot between knowing just enough to keep people on the points,
Yep.
but still be genuinely having a conversation and be curious. Do you feel like it made you loosening up and not giving a shit so much? Do you think that made it better and more like authentic for you or?
Yeah, I mean, because all right, this is my thing. I love Nardwar, and I think Nardwar does incredible interviews. But there's something I've sort of realized from watching a lot of Nardwar interviews is that I don't really want to do the kind of interviews he does, where he
Yeah.
like researches to such an insane extent and gets like, hey, Bobby from the fucking salad bar that you worked when you were 15 said that you fucking pushed a girl into a fountain or some shit.
Yeah,
He's gonna
here
bring
I
up
brought
some.
you a fountain.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So I brought you a fountain.
Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's cool, and he definitely gets some like really good reactions out of that.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something to be said, and a lot of times when you're interviewing a musician or whatever, it's like you got to go listen to those albums and stuff because they're gonna sort of be looking at you like what, like
Well, yeah.
they got egos, they're gonna feel disrespected. So I feel like I have to do that to some extent. But a lot of like I did an Andy Dick interview a couple weeks ago, and I listened to one interview that he did, like one other podcast that sort of like helped give me a rough idea of his whole career and stuff. But he's like, you ever seen the Andy Dick show? I'm like, I remember it from high school, but I don't really remember anything about it. He's like, oh, God. But at the same time, he's Andy Dick, so he's not
Yeah.
expecting everybody to know everything about him. But if I'm sitting there with 1000 Band Fawny, and he's like
Yeah.
a dope rapper that I really fuck with, but if I'm sitting there and I don't know anything about who he's worked with, everything, at a certain point, he's going to be like, you're a clown.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you-
I agree
You
with
should know
that.
more about this.
Yeah. Especially like with artists and shit like that, and like a lot of the stuff that you do is like these new up and coming guys, and like you're genuinely a fan of them. That's what makes it so real, and that's why people look to you for guidance on that stuff. But obviously, with those people, you can't sit down and be like, so rap
So you
or
rap?
R&B,
What
or
is that?
what's your thing exactly?
Yeah. And I've heard dudes do it. Like there's some dudes I'm really good friends with who rap, and like they did this one podcast, and the dude like it specifically was like, yeah, like I don't know anything about you guys' music. I listened to it a little bit in the car, but man, people really like you.
Ah,
You
that's
guys
the
are really popular,
worst.
and I'm like, ugh, like
Worst case for an artist.
that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. So you said, was it the second interview you said that that really like catapulted?
Yeah, and really before that, there was like like a year or so where I was messing with the format and
Yeah.
like trying to find other ways to do BMX interviews and just trying to. I just knew I wanted to make content in general, and it took me a little while to figure it out. But by the time I got into like actually doing like real podcasts, like
Yeah.
at first it was under the Come Up BMX, the BMX site, and then on No Jumper, I just realized like the podcast thing is good. I had a pretty decent formula going by that point, and it was really because I wasn't too scared to go, okay, I'm going to get somebody to help me with the video. I'm going to get somebody to help me with the audio. I'm going to get, pay a bunch of people to help me do all this stuff. So maybe I spend $1,000 on equipment and another $1,000 on a couple, engineers to help me and stuff. And,
Yeah.
but that was a big thing to me too, is like just realizing like I need to just pay people to do the stuff that I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's a hard, I'm real, sometimes one of my biggest deficiencies is like trying to figure out everything myself, right? And not
Yep.
delegating properly and like saying, hey, let's just figure out a couple little things. All we need is a little bit of equipment or someone to maybe help out a little bit, and you can take you a really long way.
It's like it's really important to sort of dive in before you like maybe have a finalized product,
Yeah.
And even in my early podcasts, I had like a real cameraman there who was like filming, zooming in, everything like that, making it look really good. And then I was just sort of looking at it, and I was like, I don't like having to rely on the filmer, making sure that he's there every time and
Yeah.
everything. So I was like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my iPhone on this tripod, and I'm just going to film all these interviews with my iPhone, so I never have to worry about getting somebody else in the studio. And that just allowed me to go crazy in the beginning. So
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
How long did you do that for? For a while? For like,
I was doing iPhone only until maybe like 3 or 4 months ago.
Jesus.
And then I like actually, because at a certain point I got it set up so I have the camera and it feeds into the computer, so I don't have to worry about memory cards. It just made the whole thing a lot smoother.
And you always, was it always big on YouTube from the beginning? It was super big on YouTube?
Yeah, I signed up for SoundCloud and iTunes like when I started doing podcasts, but I also just kind of realized that I thought that the with visual element was probably going to be bigger, because I was
Yeah.
looking at the Breakfast Club and stuff like that, and I was just like, you know what, I got to do the video with this to stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That was late for me. I started on the audio and then the video is late. But I'll say like right now my YouTube, because I just do not have a fan base on YouTube, right? They're just not there.
And it's such a specific thing.
It
Like you could have a
is.
huge Instagram. You
And they
could
don't
post,
give a
you
shit.
could post every day and say subscribe to my YouTube,
Yeah.
and you'll get 2 people to go and do it. Yeah, it's brutal. It's
It's
hard.
so
I mean,
nuts.
Facebook's the same thing. It's like I got 50,000 on my fucking personal Facebook, I guess, but I never swapped it over to like a fan page. I just don't even do it. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I know I'm missing out on a huge percentage of people that might watch my shit.
Yeah. But if you got them, especially if you got them on YouTube, one thing I feel like about YouTube is like similar to actual podcasts is when you have those people, you have them. You know what I mean? Because if you have that YouTube audience, the Facebook audience is very like passive.
Oh God, they're so passive.
Like they're just like,
Yes.
oh, I watched 2 seconds of this, great, and maybe it counts as a view or it doesn't. I don't know, whatever. No jumper, I love it.
Terrible.
It's like horrible.
I hate Facebook.
Hate Facebook.
I really want to do better on there, but I really hate it.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I can't. I try kind of, but all my focus is really on Instagram. But I'm trying to build up the YouTube. Were you always doing the video blogs?
No, that happened after. That happened. I think my first vlog on No Jumper was about a year and a half ago, and it was like I was on vacation with. Oh, so before that, I was doing the BMX ones though, and like that I had been doing for a while, and I kind of really gotten that down to a science. And I had a couple of huge hits too, where I got like a couple of different vlogs that would get like 2, 3, 4 million views,
Jesus.
just because of really good titles and thumbnails.
Was it you? Like what was the content of the original
The content of, well, one of them that did really good was just called BMX versus cops. And I just happened to get a really good thumbnail of these cops
good.
standing next to my friend riding BMX, even though in reality the cops were really nice and they just told us to leave.
Yeah.
They were super friendly about it.
Yeah.
And I called it that, and I think I got like 4 million views and made like fucking 15 grand or something off that. And I was just like,
Jesus.
oh Lord, that YouTube money was better than back
Just
then.
off the ad revenue?
Yeah, I was like, damn, that was nice. And then I like put out another one that was called BMX versus crazy guy in a car, because we were all riding down by the LA River, and like there was this dude who was drunk as fuck or like fucking lit up on meth or some shit, and he was driving his car up on the banks of the side of the fucking river while there's all these kids on BMX, and I was I just did really good with those a couple times, but then and that made me get real motivated of like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna try to make a different vlog every day about BMX, and all of a sudden I'm like averaging I'm averaging maybe 2, 3, 400,000 views. And I just realized like this isn't making me happy. Like I'm kind of miserable having to go to the skate park and like figure out something to film every day. I was like, I want to make vlogs that are about just my life that don't have to rely on BMX. And then maybe if I do one where I go ride BMX, that's cool. But so I just fully like stopped doing the BMX ones and just went to No Jumper and started. My first one that I did on No Jumper was like I was on vacation with my family. And I just made a vlog about me hanging out with my family. I figured this is like the lamest thing I could think of. That's like nobody should really want to watch. And I did it just because I realized like I wanted to have a closer connection with my fans, and that I didn't want to just have to put out like 2 podcasts a week or one podcast a week. I wanted to go hard as fuck and just start doing something that would make people care more. And then that stuff really kind of blew my channel up in general and made a lot more people care about the podcast, which I kind of always knew would happen.
Yeah.
If I made people care about the podcast, then they would care about the vlogs. And if I made them care about the vlogs, they'd care about the podcast. So it worked out pretty good, to be honest.
That's crazy, man. That's so like, it's so smart. Not only so smart, but so, it's hard to do. Like this shit takes discipline to constantly deliver that much content.
Right.
Do you do a vlog? You don't do a vlog every day, do you?
I did daily for like 6 months, starting in like November of last year.
Yep.
I think it was about 6 months. And then, I was going really consistent until like maybe 3 months ago. I threw my back out doing some bullshit.
Yeah.
And then I was like on the floor in my house for like a week or two, just trying to stretch and just and I just fell off doing the vlogs. But I still will do it because sometimes I have days where I'll like see like 10 rappers in a day, or I go to the studio, I meet up with this guy. I feel bad I'm not doing one today because this is like, sometimes I feel like I try to do vlogs when I can tell that I'm gonna be really proud of that day.
No shit.
Because sometimes I look at my own vlogs and I'm like, bro, that was such a sick day. I would feel like it was a crime if I didn't document that day in some way for my fans, because I know they care so much.
Yeah.
So it's like, in a way, I feel like the vlogs too, because I used to make pretty good money off them, and then YouTube at a certain point kind of fucked the money up. But then I just realized like, this is like, my fans love this. This is what I'm kind of known for. Like I got to keep doing this, even if there isn't like a direct payout from that video.
It's just fucking hard, man. I know that with all the shit that I do, even for the brand and like trying to do the podcast and do all this stuff, like I know how incredibly valuable it would be for me just to connect. And obviously, like I came from this background of having this really engaged fan base and all this stuff, and I know that the value is there, but it's just hard. I'm working on it. But
do you feel like there was ever a point where you sort of like, because I feel like consistency is so crazy important with online content, that I feel like if I didn't update my YouTube channel for 6 months and then I came back and started doing content again, that maybe that following would like reconvene, but I feel like it would like, and I've seen it. There's this YouTuber named Fusi who's a fucking total cunt, but he like is like, he stopped doing the videos for a couple months, and all of a sudden I just saw it where his views were like 10 or 20% of what they were, and he was daily for years, and he just would fall off, and then when he comes back, they just were not as good, and it takes months and months of being consistent to build it back up. Do you feel like you ever kind of did anything in that regard that you regretted?
Shit, man, that's a good question. I wouldn't really say that I regretted it. Shit, maybe a little. Maybe a little. Only in this. This is why I have trouble with that, is because so we did the TV stuff for so long. I mean, it was literally like 9 years of TV. And so we built this huge audience and blah, blah, blah. I think more so what happened is I didn't realize how Instagram and YouTube would be the new TV.
Right.
Right? I just didn't understand that. So when TV was over, the reason why I hesitate and say not really, but kind of, is because I never had the goal of being famous, right? Or being out, putting myself out there like that. It kind of happened, and I got in on it because I wanted the opportunity to do other things like start a clothing line. So as soon as TV was over, I was so relieved and I was so happy to not be having to deliver content or this character or you know what I'm saying? I just got so tired of it. So I think that I needed the time off. You know,
Mm,
I don't think there's any part of my natural personality that would have went straight from TV into like vlogging, let's say.
mm.
Like the next week,
And
fuck it, I'm
that's got to be
starting a
so
vlog.
hard to manage anyway. You're used to like a camera crew and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment and editing and everything per episode.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like pointing a little camera at your face and that's
Yeah.
supposed to be just as good. And then you
Yeah.
have to figure everything out on your own. Yeah, like I could totally get how coming from that it would probably be really hard. But I mean, that's the weird thing about it is that these days, really a TV show, if I got a TV show right now, I would be thinking, oh, this is a really good way for me to make my YouTube bigger, to make my Instagram
Yeah,
bigger,
it's so
because
true.
those people, if I had a TV show for a year and even if nothing came from it besides I got 100,000 Instagram followers from people who saw me on TV, well, boom, those are 100,000 people that I could sell T-shirts to.
Yeah.
I can get them to watch my YouTube. I can whatever, and like that's the value in it to me.
And that's so true. And it went from like literally when once again, the reason I hesitated was because had I known the day that TV ended that vlogging and podcasting would be the new TV, I probably would have done it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I probably would have been like, well, who cares if you want the time off or you don't want to be in the whatever. I would have done it because I know that in the end, if I had this audience of 10 million people right now, it would be way more, beneficial for me. So I probably would have done it even though mentally I just needed the break.
Mm.
I just was sick of having any camera, small or big, pointed at like I just didn't like it, you know?
Mm.
Now I've opened up to it a little bit more and I'm also speaking from a place that's actually who I am and what I'm doing and what I like to do, so it feels
Being the
better.
real you now, yeah.
And like in that world, I was always gonna be the little homie. No
Yeah.
matter what it was, it's just there was no way for me to ever graduate from that. It wasn't gonna happen. It doesn't matter if we did Fantasy Factory till I was 50. I would have been a 50-year-old little homie.
Mhm.
And so I think now speaking from a voice that's things that I actually like and talking to people that I actually respect and making videos about what I'm actually working on, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. And I
Mhm.
just noticed like when I run into people who are fans of the podcast, it's so much better than running into people who are fans of the TV show because
Mhm.
it's somebody who actually
Yeah.
like is having a conversation about something you care about, not like, yo, that the mini horse was crazy.
And it's
It's like,
such a
ah,
difference
shit.
for me too because I'll have people run up on me who I feel like I have an amazing 10-minute conversation with because it's obvious to me that they watch my shit all the time. They have a bunch of like nuanced questions, shit
Yeah.
like that. But then I have some dudes who'll run up on me and it's like I'm a fucking meme where it's like, oh, like I seen that video where you had the threesome with those girls, or I
Yeah.
seen the video you did acid, and it's like, okay, this is what you're doing. You're just gonna sit here and name off every viral thing I ever did,
Bro,
like
that was my life for 10 years.
because every TV show episode is
Yes.
this one little theme. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, but it's cool. I mean, now that like I said, now that the podcast stuff is opening my eyes to like I feel like I kinda had a bit of a bad taste in my mouth from the TV show fan feedback. Like I said, because it's "Oh, who took a shit in the pool, bro?" Or
right.
like, "Oh, I can't believe you fucking," and like it's all kind of this meme type
Mhm.
stuff, and it just gets annoying. But
Yeah.
when you do now that I'm starting to do this podcast and people are starting to come up to me and like you said, have those conversations, that's dope. Like I
Yes.
really enjoy that. And that feels like, okay, I'm building a I hate calling people fans, but like I'm
Right.
building a group of like-minded
Mhm.
people, right? We're all kind of thinking about the same things, not like, oh, I get made fun of for a living and people like it and so they want my autograph.
I went to my girl's sister's birthday party the other day.
Mhm.
And, I already like wasn't really excited to go because it's like I don't fucking know any of these people. I don't know, what am I gonna talk to them about? Blah blah blah. And again, like if I'm gonna talk to them about something, they're probably gonna give me the fucking meme treatment where it's like, oh, why do you have a fucking tattoo on your head? Oh, I saw that video where you said this, blah blah blah. And I kind of like expect that at a certain point, and I like that from my fans. But from some fucking random girls at the bar, I'm just like not really trying to hear it. So I'm
Yeah.
already kind of like steeling myself to be annoyed.
Yep.
But then there's one dude who's like one of the girl's boyfriends, and he is just straight up like he's like a real actual skater, and
Mhm.
he's like, bro, I saw that interview you did with this dude and this dude. I fuck with you, and I'm just like, I'm actually glad I came because
Yeah,
I met
that's
one cool
dope.
guy, and we're
Yeah.
actually having a conversation about Antoine Dixon, and I'm like, yeah, man, like because he's sober now,
Yeah.
amazing,
I
like
love
cool,
him.
because I did his interview and he was off the shits.
Yep.
Like, and then I seen him on the block the other day, and he starts talking to me, and it takes me about 20 seconds to realize, like, holy fuck, you're sober.
Yeah, I don't
Like
think I've ever talked to him sober.
dude, it's such a different dude. He has a video on YouTube that he did with his company. I forget what it's called. If you just look up Antoine Dixon, like interview 2017 or something,
Yeah.
amazing, super inspirational.
I love him. What would you say like your biggest focus is? All things YouTube? Would you say is your biggest focus, or like the way that I look at my stuff is kind of like if here's where the eyeballs are coming from, and then here's how you kind of sell the product or do whatever from that. Like, do you look at YouTube as your main focus there? Or?
Yeah, I would say that my main focus is just the content and just anything I can do that will like make a change theoretically in the world or like further the conversation about the culture.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, yeah, I make clothes, but it's like, am I passionate about making clothes? Not as much. It's more like, it's something that the fans want. It's something that is a monetization strategy. At the end of the day, it's not, that's not my number one priority. My number one priority is just to make content, I think. So I've kind of like identified that, and that I sort of like base all my decisions on that one thing in the sense that like that's what I really want to do, and everything else is just auxiliary things that promote it or help me to keep doing it.
Yep. And would you say music is like your number one passion?
Yeah. I would say my number one. My thing is I just like everything. Like I'm just really interested in, I have like the BAM Epically Latered open on my computer right now.
I gotta watch that.
I want to see it so bad, but I haven't really had the 45 minutes to sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, really, I can't differentiate why, like, the BAM Epically Latered or, a documentary about a rapper or a BMX rider. And it's like, I'm just interested in the fucking world around me. I mean, the podcasts I listen to and shit, like, I was listening to this podcast with Sam Harris interviewing a climate change expert for like an hour before I came here. So
just fucking anything.
And I don't really see any difference. Like to me, it's like like interviewing rappers. I would probably be interviewing a climate change scientist as well if I felt like I had anything to offer to the conversation. And like that's why like I paid so much attention to politics and shit.
Yeah.
To me, it's like one day I'll be able to discuss politics like intelligently enough that I think that I will like really have something like. And we do. We discuss politics on the podcast, but I don't make that my focus because I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
It's more just something I'm interested in. But that's how I felt about rap too, is that like when I started the BMX blog, it was like, okay, I've been riding BMX for about 10 years. I think that I actually have like somewhat of an intelligent perspective on this.
Yeah.
And at that time I was obsessed with rap too, but I kind of like rightfully knew that like maybe then wasn't the right time to start making rap based content.
Yeah.
Then when I was 30, all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I actually feel like maybe I have something to offer in this regard. And then with politics, it's like, I feel like in maybe 5 years or something, maybe I would have enough room to really double down on that.
Yeah, like could you see No Jumper evolving into anything that could you see yourself doing a political interview with some sort of somebody in politics and or a climate change interview with a scientist ever?
Yeah. Because I've interviewed authors and self-help type people and stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, do you really want to interview a politician when politicians are mostly just lying and trying to get elected?
Of course.
Like, I would rather interview somebody who's like involved in politics from the position of, I'm in the media or I write articles, I make videos, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people I'm actually interested in. Like, I would wear, like, I consider myself a liberal. Ben Shapiro is like a conservative pundit that I like find entertaining. I like watching his videos. A lot of people like him, even though he's conservative.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'd probably way rather interview him than like some GOP fucking clown who's just concerned about getting reelected, shit like that. But I've been thinking about splitting off and doing a separate podcast, but I guess I'll just spoil it. Like I've been thinking about doing a porn podcast weekly. Because
just talk about porn.
Well, no, where I interview porn stars and people in the industry and stuff, because I don't know that much about it, but my porn interviews are super popular. But it's like as No Jumper has gone on, it's become more like, this is a rap podcast. And everything else is kind of like, it's like if I was going to be doing a weekly porn interview on No Jumper, all of a sudden I would feel like I was kind of taking away from like the interviews that I do with female rappers or whatever. And I just don't know if I really would. But I feel like if I split it off completely, then I can make that focused.
Yeah.
So I think I might do that. But I also like really I'm working on the hook. I'm working on exactly how I'm going to sell it and what it's going to be called and stuff like that.
Yeah, what do you call that?
Because for me, doing a 1 hour podcast is fucking nothing. And I know a million people in the porn world, and that's the focus of advertising is the big thing. because you just automatically have like,
Yeah.
if you're a big porn company, how could you not want to advertise on like the? I don't think there's any other cool porn.
Oh, no, you could probably
there's
run
nothing.
that.
Every
Yeah.
every time I talk to a porn girl like about the interview I did, they're like, your interview is the only good interview I ever did. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should just embrace that.
Yeah,
you
you
know?
should, man.
Kinda
That's really
lean into that.
Do you do advertising on No Jumper?
I do, but not a ton. Like I have a podcast network, but I've only had them for like a month or two, and they're just kind of getting started in terms of getting me like, ads that I read on air and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to get all that monetized and everything, but that's something that I kind of slacked with. I didn't really want to like get into all that until I got big enough that it would actually be significant.
Yeah. And then on top of all that, your spot's on Melrose, your shop is on Melrose?
Yeah, 7669 Melrose.
And you're still there every day?
Not every day because I travel a bunch, and a lot of times I have meetings during the day. But I try to be there as much as possible, either on the live stream or, I'm working in back. I try to go out and hang out in front, take pictures of the kids, do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I like being in there. Like if I have a free week, like a week where I don't have to go do a bunch of bullshit or different meetings and stuff, I'm probably going to be in there from 1 or 2 p.m. until fucking midnight, like every day.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. Like, I don't know. It's cool, like, seeing this because you have, like, an actual office that seemed like people probably come in here and show up on time and then
they
leave
do.
on
Yeah,
time.
it's weird. Yeah.
That is weird for me to imagine.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how would those people... I mean, I guess I have regular employees, but it's a bike shop. It's not like there's...
Yeah, we have an HR department.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I mean?
You ever used to watch The Office?
A little bit.
Toby?
Yeah.
From the HR?
Yeah.
Wait, but does the HR... Did they, like, make sure that, like, nobody's sexually harassing each other?
Oh, yeah.
How many employees are in here?
40-ish, 30, upper 30s.
So how do you get to the point where you're like, I need someone to make sure that nobody's harassing each other?
You get to a point where you have to do it because it becomes a liability. And so at HR department, you actually are clearing yourself of a lot of liability because then two people can't just be sexually harassing each other and you didn't have anything in place to stop it.
Right.
So as long as you put it in place and they do a good job, now
at least it's if there
blame's
was
off
something
me.
really bad, at least you can be like, well, look at all these things I did to try to stop that.
Yeah, like you should have went and talked to the person in place to stop the sexual harassment.
At what point you probably have a lot of people that you're kind of involved with who would tell you to do something like that because that's not the kind of thing you just figure out on your own.
Yeah, no, I have my business partners are older than I am, and I would not have thought of that by myself.
Yeah,
no,
they're
the ones.
You would have got the shit suit out of you, and then someone would have been like,
That's
"This is what you need to do." Yeah,
you're 100% right. That's what would have happened. Yeah, no, I just as you go, it seems like kind of you grow and you hire older, more experienced people, and they sort of tell you like, hey, it's a little like there's still a lot of things that they'll come to me and be like, it's absolutely ridiculous that you don't do this. But you just kind of piece together like what's absolutely necessary and not. But as soon as like the company becomes successful and it becomes a real liability that you can see and be like, well, I'm going to be screwed. And like the things that count as sexual harassment is insane.
Really?
Yeah. So
you ever see like Fox News has lost like 5 of their biggest anchors over the course of the past year?
They're sexually harassing everyone over there.
I don't even, it makes me wonder, like, is it just a culture where dudes who work there feel like they can act like this?
Yep.
Or is it like after the fact, all these dudes are sort of acting in a way that's kind of normal, and then after the fact, people decide that behavior was offensive? I don't know.
I believe that both happen, but my guess would be that at Fox News just seems like the type of place that's built around this sort of like old white creepy man that can do whatever he wants.
Right.
You know? Maybe that's
Man.
maybe I'm judging,
But it's weird for me because like I have, female employees and stuff, and we joke around so much about, because we're just like Kim is my main female employee and she's just my friend, and like we'll joke around about everything. And then like sometimes I think like, what if like down the road she decides that she hates me and that like the jokes that seemed okay then,
Yeah,
that's
granted, what happens.
Mine's a very small business in comparison. There's not a lot of people involved. It's kind
Yeah.
of hard to imagine. But like with this, once you got 50 people and you got the secretary, and then once there's a real big power imbalance,
Yes.
you have you're super powerful, and then if you were a creepazoid trying to fuck all the secretaries or whatever,
Yeah.
just
And when you have
problems.
people that really start to look at this as like their career, right? Because what happens is then something goes wrong. Maybe they're showing up late to work, they're slacking off, and you fire them. They say, well, let me pull up this email where you said you look great in that little sundress, and like you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it was a joke at the time, like it's crazy, man. Like Not that I don't want any of the crazy listeners to like think that I'm apologizing for like sexual harassment culture because I'm not, but I'm saying sometimes the things that like how that can be turned
Mm-hmm.
from joking into like something very serious is I've seen friends of mine get just screwed.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
the more money you got and the more famous you are, the more fucking you have to lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Um, what do you think about like the future of yourself? Like, what do you see? You know, if you look, this is why I always ask people. Let's say you're 75 years old
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of kicking back and like chilling, and you've done it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've done what you wanted to do. What does that look like to you? Like, what does the empire look like?
You know, it's like I think there's a lot of different ways that you could view that. Like I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk,
Hmm.
and he was on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, and they're having the conversation, and Gary's talking about all these businesses he invests in, and how he loves investments, he loves making deals, and how that's him. At the end of the
Hmm.
day, he loves the idea of being in business, and
Yep.
he's talking about some of the shit, and Joe's like, God, like I would not do that. Like
Yeah, I
Joe
listened
straight
to
up
that.
said, I got friends who come to me with business ideas that I think are great ideas. I think they'll do really well. I 100% believe in them. But I still don't invest because I just don't want a bunch of bullshit in my life. I don't
Yeah.
want a bunch of fucking shit I have to deal with. I don't want to have to worry about how your startup's doing. And I get that because to me, it's like there's so many things I could be doing. And like now it just sort of seems to become like, oh, there's all these alternate paths. Like, oh, if you want to work on developing TV shit all the time, you could like, there's a bunch of companies trying to holler at me about that. You could try to develop TV shows all fucking day. And at the end of the day, I'm like, what do I really want to be doing? I think I want to be having these conversations and podcasts. And so I think, and that's what led me to podcasting is like, oh, here's something that I could like infinitely expound upon.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm ever going to get sick of it. I don't think I'm ever going to run out of shit to do. If anything, to me, it's I'm trying to find more. I'm trying to find balance. Like I don't want to have to do. I'm
Yeah.
doing 6 podcasts in a week because I can't say no because I'm so addicted to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bad thing in a way. I want to make it rare and just find like more of a balance. Like I want to be able to find more time in the day to relax, to go to the beach, like fucking. But then at the same time, it's like I'm just so in love and obsessed with the grind of just working my ass off that it's kind of hard to even imagine. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think the important part for me is that if I had to do this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's kind of hard for me to imagine not being happy with that. If I was
Yeah.
75 and I did this shit for 20 years, well, I mean, 40 years, I guess. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel, but I think the number one thing is I just want to keep advancing in one way
Yep.
or another. And maybe I don't know what advancing would be for me right now, but I just want to keep going with it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, man. There's something about like just moving forward, even if you don't, have the grand plan all mapped out. Like it's when you say like the phase that you had in New York where you were just tired of the blogging,
Mm.
that's the miserable part. You know what I mean? It's like as long as you're just moving forward and like experiencing new things and breaking through new thresholds that you didn't think you would accomplish, like I just feel like that's the key to like everything.
And just listening to your fucking soul, because at the end of the day, like, okay, with the podcast thing, and you're lucky because you've fucking already seen the TV thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who start podcasts might be like, oh, like my dream is that I'm going to have a TV show.
Yeah.
And then you get the TV show and you realize like, and I've never had a TV show, but I've had so many people in my life who do online content now and had a TV show for a couple of years and are just straight up like, I don't miss that. Like
Yeah.
what I'm doing now, like maybe it's less money, maybe whatever, but it's just like way better to like be in control and stuff like that. So I don't have that floating around in my head like, oh, I need to do TV and movies and shit, which a lot of people I think do.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like podcasting is kind of in a weird way like the top of the mountain. Like getting bigger is a goal. Like, it would be great to be Joe Rogan and have 10 million people listen to every episode or whatever it is. But do I need to get there? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, smart, man. And it is so true. Like I don't the same way as you, I think if I was offered a TV show tomorrow, I might accept it to help build up my own platforms. But like I would not be out actively trying to conceptualize TV shows. And 5 years ago, that would have been the roadmap
Mm-hmm.
that I would have thought of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have had the hindsight to say, put all of your effort into this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This always seemed like an after effect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I had a meeting with like a huge media company the other day, and they're like super cool. Like everybody would think that it would probably be like a goal or a dream to work with them, and a lot you could probably guess who they are. But and I just like am sitting there, and like, they're talking. They're like, "Yo, we really like you. We really like your attitude. Like, you should really pitch some stuff." I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, no, no. I ain't
Yeah.
pitching shit. You guys, here's what you do. You come up with an idea, and then you like maybe can ask me about it, and like maybe like I just don't have the time or the want to like sit there and take all these,
Yeah.
work on all these great ideas. Like, if I'm gonna be spending any percentage of my mind like conceptualizing a concept for a show or whatever, it's gonna be a show for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I can think of additional content I would like to make for No Jumper, not even involving myself, that would be fun for me to develop. And so in a weird way, that kind of stands out as like, oh, I've done a pretty good job of like elevating my own voice and making No Jumper have this big outsized voice of me. But and I'm a 33-year-old white guy. Can I go and find a fucking 23-year-old black dude who doesn't have any broadcasting experience and then create a format with him
Yeah.
that will give him a voice that would make No Jumper seem better or different or more infinite because I'm giving voices to other creators instead of just empowering myself? That
Yeah.
to me that would be the ultimate goal, but that's the hardest thing in the fucking world,
So hard.
is to find good on-air talent. That's like, and even if you do find them, it's like, what are the odds that you're going to keep them for more than a year? You can get them
Yeah.
signed to a contract or whatever, but if Complex is doing their job, they're going to see that dude that you hired and they're going to be like, yo, here's a big ass check.
Yeah.
So I think about that a lot too. Where like I did an interview with this rapper Rico Reckless the other day, and he was so incredible on camera that I was like, man, like it's a crime if nobody gives this guy a fucking
Yeah.
like a development deal or something. And maybe I should be the one. Maybe I should be the one. But I don't know. It's like, do I really?
Yeah.
Do you want to build a giant business or do you want to just be yourself? And for me, it's like, I kind of feel like I have both options now, and I really don't know which one is the one.
Yeah, I also think that you can do both. I think you're in the
Yeah.
position to do both. Like, meaning if you're able to put somebody under you in No Jumper, a correspondent or whatever you want to call them, or
Mhm.
add another podcast under the No Jumper network.
Mhm.
I just think like you have such a strong, connected niche like thing going that like you could. I just think you could build it really big, make a shit ton of money, and be doing only exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of.
Like I think you're lined
I
up
feel
to
like
do
I'm
it.
so in the early stages of it too that it's like, right now I'm just trying to keep my head down and just keep grinding, because I just feel like as soon as I start to get caught up in like who I am now or what I've created or whatever, and
Yeah.
start perceiving myself as like, oh, this is what I am. I'm not just a regular guy anymore. I like started this thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to think about shit like that. I just want to keep going, because I feel like every time I do a new piece of content with some weird ass person that I just get a bunch of fans from it and get a bunch of positive reactions from it, and
Yeah.
I just want to keep chasing after that.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
Mm.
Do you ever get that feeling? Do you ever get like the feeling where you're not maybe not feeling yourself, but like start to almost get scared of making moves because now you have too much pressure on you or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when it's weird because like I say that I don't want to do 6 podcasts in a week
Mhm.
because I just can't say no to the
Yeah.
ones that I believe are good ideas.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like there's like a couple that just stick out in my head. Like there's this rapper Ski Mask the Slump God,
Yeah.
and like I've known him for like a year and a half or whatever, and like maybe 9 months ago or something, he was like hit me up kind of tough, like, yo, let's do this interview, this interview, and I just like wasn't having the week for it. Like I just didn't feel like doing his interview or researching or whatever, and I was
Yeah.
like kind of blowing him off or whatever, and he's blown up a lot since then. And also like I just love his music. And I just look at that one as like, you fucking dickhead. Like, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you
Yeah.
fucking actually like work a little harder that one time? So I don't know.
Yeah. Damn it. Well, now you do 6 a week. How many do you air a week?
No, I mean, it's not like 6 a week always. It's
I
just I
know,
just
but
do a lot. Like, I don't know. It's
you
just,
post one a week?
No, I post probably at least like 2, 3 a week.
Oh, you just post them when you have them?
Just whenever, yeah.
Oh, you don't have any schedule.
I used to, but then I don't know. I just at a certain point I realized like I want to be a really big podcaster, and like a big part of the reason why Joe Rogan's podcast is different than mine is
Yeah.
that Joe Rogan has 1,000 done and I have 250 done.
Yeah.
And now, and like when I was first starting, I was like, well, the difference between me and Joe Rogan is that Joe Rogan has 700 and that I have 15.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So I just,
He
for
does
me,
like 3 a week still, right?
all the time, and a lot of times like 3 hours, which
I don't. That's nuts.
I look at him in a lot of ways as like, oh, that's pretty much exactly where I'm trying to end up.
Yeah.
He got a nice house in the fucking valley where he can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's got all these weird interests. He's got his family. He's out there. He's shooting shit with his bow and arrow. He's,
Yeah.
he's like
He's got a
doing,
good life.
he's doing jujitsu, and like he was talking to who was it that he had on? It was he had Pauly Shore on.
Mm-hmm.
Pauly Shore's kind of got the old Hollywood mentality. When Pauly's like, dude, like you could have a show. Like you really should have a show. Joe's like, I don't want a show. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing this. I'm fine with this. I don't want a fucking show, bro. Like if I went and got a
He had no
show,
chance.
you know, because he did fucking Fear Factor, which is very similar to what you're talking about, where
Yep.
he did a show that wasn't really him
Yep.
for a long ass time, and now people like it probably opened a shitload of doors for him.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, does he want to chase after just another show?
Yes,
Like,
it's not a fulfilling
Yeah.
feeling.
he gets to go into his studio and sit there for 3 hours and have a conversation with his friend and put it on YouTube and iTunes and everything and get millions and millions of views. Like, what the fuck else? Even if he's making 10% of the money that he could be making doing something else, it's like, and number one, I don't really believe that.
I think he's making way more.
Yeah.
I think he's making way more than he would like hosting
Yeah.
a show.
I went in and had meetings with people about doing TV show shit, and they're like telling me the amount that it would be, and I'm like that ain't really moving the needle for me that much at
No.
this point, bro.
And like most people are doing like a fraction of the numbers that you're doing on your own. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like a lot of these networks that seem so grand, and I don't know. I mean, maybe there's still value in it, I guess, for marketing yourself. But a lot of these networks that seem so big are not getting the views that you're getting on your own YouTube page.
Exactly.
And that's crazy.
And they want that so bad. Like Complex does okay views on their YouTube, but
Yeah.
they went like for their new show Everyday Struggle, they went and got DJ Academics,
Yep.
who himself I think has more YouTube subscribers than them and like consistently gets more views than them.
Yep.
They went and got him to be the co-host of their show, which to me is fucking hilarious.
And what I
because
would say is if you're arguing the point, Academics should have done that himself.
he could have, but then on the other hand, you think like, man, maybe he goes and does that Complex show for a year, and
True.
that makes him a way bigger name. He
That
goes
too.
back to his channel. He's way bigger now as a result, like just
Yeah.
in terms of people knowing about him. And then even on top of that, it's like, well, maybe he does the show for a year, and he does so good that then they have to offer him 5 times as much money,
Yeah,
and then he's
yeah.
kind of living good. So I mean, definitely something to be said for it.
Yeah, I hope that's true. That's true. And I think it'll open his eyes to how much power he really has and how much he gained from that.
Mm.
Because I just think it's the age of figuring out how to own it all yourself
Mhm.
and looking at every piece of outside media as simply a marketing vehicle for yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what I think like was so dope about your story and your stuff to me was like you're doing that 100%. And you have this little world and this little ecosystem that like is fucking powerful, man. Like you're the epitome of what I think every kid with any passion should start doing tomorrow.
I appreciate that. And I love being able to have the kind of story that I have in terms of like where I'm at now, because I can say that to a kid. Like there's nothing stopping you. Like my equipment that I started the podcast with was, you know, you could do it with an iPhone, or
Yeah.
you could buy a couple $100 worth of recording equipment and do that kind of thing. And it's like, you know, there's really, you know, there's nothing stopping you. Nobody needs to give you an opportunity. When I was growing up, the average person I was able to be familiar with is like somebody who got an opportunity to be on TV, to get a gig, whatever. And it's like the fact that nobody gave me an opportunity and I created my own opportunity is definitely like my biggest point of pride,
Yeah.
you know? Because like I look at like a radio DJ, whatever, and it's like I respect them, and they must have played the game pretty good to be able to get into that position.
Yeah.
But I didn't really play the game, you know. I just kind of fucking started making my own shit. So if I do go and get a job, if some network is like, here's the contract, here what we're gonna do, like number one, it feels so good to be able to say no
Mhm.
and be like, no, I don't give a fuck about your show or whatever. And then number two, like if I do it, like to be able to be like, yeah, well, I earned that. Like they gave me that opportunity, but I didn't need that opportunity.
Yep.
You know, that's a great feeling to me.
Yeah, that's what I just think. Like, even speaking directly to even speaking directly to my whole audience, it's like that mentality of just starting and doing it yourself. And even we were talking earlier, I think it was off camera, about how you record the show in the back of your bike shop,
Mhm.
and you're not worried about having this crazy set or having all this stuff. And like people really connect to that. I just think that's something I try to stress a lot is like, however you can, just start.
Mm-hmm.
Set an iPhone on the desk. Interview your buddies about this thing that you like. Just make sure that it's something. It's
Just
music, it's culture, it's whatever it
Don't
is.
wait for somebody to give you a chance. Don't wait for your production to be on point. Don't wait for anything. Like there's nothing, like literally if you take your phone and hold it like this and talk into it for a minute and then you put it on Twitter, if you're funny, if you're interesting, if you're smart, we've seen it with everybody. We've seen it like Cardi B is not smart or interesting. She's funny though. No, I'm just kidding. I like Cardi B now. But you know, that's literally all she did. It was hey, bitch, this is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And people went fucking crazy for it. And it's like she didn't even have a microphone besides the microphone that's built into her phone. Like, that's the craziest thing I could ever imagine.
Yep.
That worked out so well with her. And that now she's a megastar. And I mean, a big part of it is the fact that she didn't wait for nothing. She just went for it. And it's like,
So true.
most people are scared of that because they're like, they realize correctly that if they were to just talking to their iPhone, that people probably wouldn't give a fuck that much because
Yeah.
they're not Cardi B. They're not as incredible as she is on camera, you know?
Yeah.
So just, you know, my favorite metaphor for what it is to be making shit online, I just heard somebody say, and I always think about this, and I always want to say when people are, like we were saying earlier, I'm like, you're just jumping on the trampoline, man. You're just jumping on the trampoline. Like someone said that, it's like, you got a trampoline in your backyard, and you start jumping on it, and you jump once, and there's like a little girl in the house next door, and she sees you, and she starts watching you.
Yeah.
And then you jump again, and there's like a guy across the street, and he sees you, and he walks over and starts talking to you, starts watching. And that's every time you do something on the internet, you're just jumping on the trampoline. And it's like maybe only one new person is going to find out, but sooner or later, you're going to have a whole fucking army of people watching your shit. And that's what all it's about, is just repeating and just doing shit that's dope. And then one of those times, you're going to jump, and there's going to be a fucking school bus driving by, and there's going to be 400 kids somehow on the school bus, and they're going to see you, and then that's going to be that moment when you go viral, and you're going to get a ton of people who find out about you in that one moment. And you just got to just keep doing good shit until you just hit that, you know?
Yeah. God damn it, that's good.
I wish I remember who told me that.
Fuck. That's a good place to end it.
I'm down.
Did we miss anything?
I don't know. Felt pretty good. If there's any holes, we could cover them on Your No Jumper when we do that.
Yeah, I'm 100% whenever.
Nice.
Anytime. Where do people go? Where do all my people go that haven't listened to the pod, don't follow you on social media? I'm guessing most of them probably do because I think we have a similar audience, but tell them that.
If you want to see it, if you want the video, youtube.com/nojumper. If you want the audio, soundcloud.com/nojumper. If you want to just look at my pretty face on Instagram, Adam22 or No Jumper. And then in terms of Twitter and stuff, I'm sure you guys can figure that out. So
Done.
hit me up, man.
All right, man. I want to come by the shop too, and maybe we'll just do it all in one time, but I want to see the live stuff you're doing, and you're just crushing the entire,
That's the sick thing about it. The other day I was during the 12-hour live stream. At one point, this dude that I was supposed to interview, who's like a YouTuber named Anything for Views, and I hadn't done any research on him either. He came through, and I did the interview in the middle of the stream. I just clicked the record button, so now I got the video file. I still didn't even put it out, but like that was so dope to be able to do an interview with the live audience, and that's what we could do for your shit too. Is like you come do the interview, like we could already be streaming, and then like we could actually have it say on the screen, like if you want drama to see your music video or your clothing line or whatever, just you do your little donation thing, whatever it says, and then we'll stay on the stream afterwards. And then the stream thing is like a bonus to the interview. It's like, oh, here's an extra hour hanging out with them that not as many people would watch, but still plenty of people would probably watch it.
I want to come soak it in, man. You just really fucking get it. You know what else I love? Last thing is like I'm similar because I grew up skating and I didn't go to college and, you know, whatever, similar mentality as you, but you're really like, you're also the epitome of someone who went against the grain, didn't give a fuck growing up, did what you wanted to do. Normally those people were doomed to failure and brokenness for life, right? In the way the old world worked 10 years ago. Because you had to conform, you had to play the game, you had to make your way through some sort of hierarchy, whatever. You're the epitome of someone who's been able to continue to not give a fuck in a good way, do things your own way, only talk about what you're passionate about, and build a platform of like-minded people and actually monetize it and make it a career. That I think is really dope.
Appreciate that. My girlfriend said the other day, she goes, you know, you're just living proof that if you do everything wrong, if you don't listen to anybody, if you do everything that everybody tells you you're not supposed to do, that you could still be okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like that. That's cool.
That's dope. That's really good. All right, Adam, thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
See you on my show soon, dude.
Can't wait.
Thanks, G.